What is going on, UFC card lovers? I am honored to be back with you this week. I have another UFC card community conversation, and I'm not joined by anyone in the hobby. I am joined by the UFC card father himself, Eric. Eric, you have been on a recent interview with Matt from the Golden Octagon. It was a fantastic conversation. We were just talking a little bit off air before. I'm trying to come up a little bit of a different angle for this video today with this talk, obviously to be respectful of your time and also the viewers' time. We were just talking a little bit off air about the UFC card community in a whole, how much it has made a difference personally, not only in the hobby, but my personal life as well. And I thought, what a great place. And as you suggested, a great topic to get started with this conversation.
Hey, sounds great. Hello to everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to talk with you. The card community has changed so much over the years. The UFC card community really started out as a very small group of people who were actually, one guy started out a website called buymmacards.com, and probably a group of 4 or 5, maybe 8, 10 tops, typical term, maybe founding fathers of the card community were there at the beginning. I don't consider myself one of those founding fathers, but I think I'm probably one of the few guys that were there in the early days that stayed for a long, long time and is still very active in the community. But it started off as a website with a group of guys that got together to share a passion for UFC cards that were brand new, because this all started in let's say 08, 09, and Topps issued round 1 in 2009. So people were just getting to figure out what the cards were supposed to be, what the collecting world was supposed to be like. And most people came in with experience as card collectors in other sports or in non-sports cards, but there wasn't much out there in 2009 and in 2010 except for round 1 from Topps. 2010 Leaf MMA had an issuance that was amazing and different than the round 1. And then prior to that, there was just a spattering of MMA fighter cards in different series of other sports and non-sports cards, like Donruss, I think, had one, and 1 or 2 other groups. Plus 2006, there was a Pride MMA set of cards that came out from Japan and that were only in Japan, that leaked over time into the US and were also very popular. But the card community was really strong back then. It's grown tremendously and in different ways. But it was really a pre-Facebook, obviously pre-Instagram, pre-YouTube discussion of UFC cards centered around this website, with a lot of great communication between the people that were buying and selling and trading, and a lot of fun. And to this day, I still have at least 6 or 10 people, let's say, that I'm still in contact with, that are still collecting from those days, and that have amazing personal collections, because they got in from the very first days and they collected round 1, which was such a limited product that I think over time the industry and the collecting community will recognize that round 1 and Pride's 2006 product really were and really are the things to hold on to, not only for long-term investment, but at that point in time, they covered basically that, with maybe Leaf MMA, covered the entire community of professional MMA and in the card business. So it's really, those are the 3, I would say, card products that will stand the test of time and represent the first cards that were out there in the community of great collectors, who still, many of them today, are collecting even the most recent products, but certainly through the Topps era.
Yeah, you made some great points there, and you obviously did mention in your talk with Matt how you were started in sports before collecting sports cards before UFC products obviously were released in, as you mentioned, 2006 with the Pride products, and then 2009 with the Topps first UFC products. What would you say, in your opinion, is it because like I've been on blowout forums, like they're trying to scroll back to, page 15 to read about what the collectors were saying back when these products were first getting released. And it seems that you obviously mentioned as well, obviously you're a heavy set collector. There were guys who were chasing just their individual favorite fighters to PC. Was there a lot of carryover in between what you'd learnt from your previous sports coming over now to UFC? Was there a lot that was sort of relatable in terms of sets, releases, what to look for, what to sort of stay away from? Because there's obviously so much. I know comparing now, I mean, it's nothing compared to what it is now, but obviously you've still got to sort of navigate, okay, which sets do I like? Which particular inserts do I like? Was there a lot? I know I'm getting a long question out here just because I'm sort of thinking as I go, but was there anything, I guess, lessons learned you could take from your previous collecting in other sports, say baseball, for example, that you could then bring into this UFC product when it came out in 2009, and maybe talk a little bit about that and what you saw from the other earlier collectors who you just spoke of as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, I can only speak from my personal experience, which would be, let's say, a bit unusual because I started collecting and when I was 5 years old, and collected baseball from the last days of Mickey Mantle playing baseball and Reggie Jackson starting to play as a rookie in '69. And I would say I collected heavily through the mid to late '70s, and even collected during the junk era, which was obviously a huge mistake that everybody made in collecting sports cards that were just way overproduced. And at that point, I think in the mid '80s is when I started my professional career after college. And then in the '20s, I kind of dropped collecting cards because I was so focused on my career. And I didn't get back into collecting cards for some time, and really didn't get back collecting cards heavily until it was UFC products. So when I started collecting UFC, I was still with a mindset of being a set collector, a set builder. And the times that I previously would open a product, back then they didn't even have autograph cards in the mid '80s. That started later. And so I was so shocked when I saw autograph cards. I recall buying my first UFC boxes and was just interested in getting the cards, had no idea what I would see inside. None. No preconceived notions. I think I had seen the sell list, but not paid attention to it because I just had developed a love for the sport, and still was still collected other things as well as cards. So I wanted to see the cards and enjoy them and build sets. And so that's how over time I ended up being such a large collector, because when everyone else was focusing on their favorite fighter, I was focusing on sets, regular sets, insert sets, owning all the autographs of a series, whereas other friends of mine that collected cards only wanted George St. Pierre cards, only wanted Silva autos, only were chasing Cain Velasquez cards, only wanted Brock, Frank Mir, all the guys back then. And for me, I was going to get all those cards because I love the sport in general. Didn't have a specific fighter that I loved. Still don't today. I'm still a very generalist, but I wanted to build those sets. And so for me, when I first saw the product, I carried over my mindset of being a set builder. And when I realized over time there were numbered cards besides just the one of ones, I liked building the numbered sets as well, thinking that everyone else was doing the same, but not fully understanding that everyone else primarily was doing a PC of a fighter or various fighters. So my mindset really was kind of late 1970s collector of baseball and other sports, mid '80s junk era, looking to build sets. And that's how I enjoyed the collecting process. And that's how I ended up building up the sets that I have today. So I've got friends that were collecting round one that might have 6, 8, 10 George St. Pierre first autos. And instead, I've got 5 sets of full sets of all the autos. So I've got as many George St. Pierres as they may have, but I went out and did it a different way. Who knows over time what makes the most sense? I ended up with a high volume of cards. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to organize them, to keep them organized, and to store them. But it's something I really enjoy. I'm a bit of a hoarder anyway with other things, so that fit exactly in on my personality.
Yeah, no, it's and it's definitely one of those things that I think is so attractive when it comes to collecting cards, is because everyone can take their own unique journey when it comes to collecting cards. I'm obviously speaking for myself. I'm not someone who's attracted to collecting sets, for example, but in saying that, I don't have a background in other sports cards. I had Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards when I was young. Other than that, sports cards weren't really culturally relevant in Australia when I was growing up. We did have some basketball stuff, but I wasn't watching basketball on TV. But anyway, being involved in the hobby now, it's just, for me personally, I'm not interested in having all these cards, as you said, for whether it takes up space and it takes up more money out of the wallet, but I'm not really interested in having these cards of these fighters who I'm not too interested in. So
right,
obviously, yeah, that's just where I'm a little bit different. Whether that'll be something that'll grow with me in time in the hobby, and maybe, I find a design or a set that I just really fall in love with, and at that time I say, hey, listen, I need to collect this set. That is something that, you could never say never for, but it's just at the moment, my journey is much more, yeah, like you spoke of, with other people. And I feel like just collecting these individual fighters, and collecting whether it's a card I get because I like the design, whether it's a card that, I think is rare. So I'm sort of, with my journey at the moment, there's 2 things that I prioritize. It's rarity and then also design. So
okay,
yeah, they're the 2 things at the moment that I'm sort of focusing around, which cards I want for my PC. But it's interesting, as I said, to hear it from people like yourself, and also I know Matt as well, who you had to talk with. He's a heavy set collector as well, and there are definitely guys out there who do prioritize the set collect. And as you said, everyone's journey sort of leads them in different places, but we're all a part of the same community. So it's very,
right.
very interesting.
I would give you this advice, even for someone who's not a set builder or a set collector. If you've got a love of the sport and you've got a love of collecting, if you can find a way to get a set of round one, because it's the first set that came out from Topps, the first licensed set, and every card is a photo of the fighter's first fight in the UFC. And so that's something that's never been done again in a set. It also has some nice insert sets. On the other side, the Topps didn't have a lot of confidence in the UFC as a product. So they only built out 500 cases, and they didn't use the highest quality card stock. So it's not going to be a perfect product to hold. You're rarely going to find, I don't even know if a PSA 10 auto exists, because the card stock on the autos was also not good. With the one exception, and I know this is strange, but it's this stupid little thing that sticks in your brain forever. Rich Franklin had an auto that replaced the Roger Huerta auto. And once you hear this, you can forget about it. There's no reason to keep it in your brain. But that was made with better card stock. So the Franklin autos came out maybe a year later, better card stock. They numbered the base auto. They didn't have any red ink autos of his. And I've seen plenty of BGS Beckett 9.5s, which are impossible with the original ones. But even if you're not a set collector or a set builder, that's an iconic product. And I think it's worthwhile for any collector to have in their collection, even even if it's the only set you own, because every card's a rookie. Every card has a photo from the first fight for the fighters, because there's some MMA refs and other personalities, like some ring girls and buffers in there, and Dana's card is in there. It's really something to own, even if it's just not your primary thing and you don't go crazy over enjoying how it looks, because it is very basic. It is the history of the UFC, and it's the first in the history of collecting. So whenever I get a chance to talk to people about cards, I always say that's one to have. Maybe, and I can tell you that's one to have that people are recognizing its value over time. Back in the first days when people were collecting and they were focusing on their PC fighter, they would bust open boxes, which were not that expensive, and they would dump all the cards they didn't want. And as soon as they dumped them on eBay, I was looking for those. So I had a search function set up for UFC 2009 round 1 lot. With the word lot, I knew I was going to be able to buy a lot of cards. And I enjoyed the set building, so it made sense for me. And in that case, I ended up probably building out 40 sets, 45 sets of the base cards, several sets of the gold thick cards, several sets of the silver cards. And because they only made 500 cases, it's rare. And back in those days, people were out selling fully blown sets that they built because they opened up so much stuff for their PC fighters for around $30. Any day you could buy a set for $30 on eBay. And today, probably, if it's under $400, the set is probably not in good condition. If you've got a really high quality set, probably selling for $600. It's never going to be a $20,000 set, but if people think about what they invest in other cards and what they may lose when they gamble on a certain fighter, it's one that you're never going to lose money on, and you'll always enjoy having around.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I'm not going to argue with the point about the significance of round 1. I with the suggestion of, you saying that you would urge every collector to try and have a set of 2009 round 1. I would like to just pick your brain as someone who I would deem much more experienced than myself, especially with this set. I would like to ask you, what is your opinion on the difference between round 1 and round 2? Just because for me personally, I actually enjoy the round 2 cards better, just because they have the photography is of just that fighter, and the name of the card is of just that fighter, which is something that I would prefer as a collector. So where do you think it stands with the difference? Whether you want to talk today, whether you want to talk a little bit in the future as well, if you want to make any sort of speculation, but where do you think round 1 and round 2 sort of sit versus each other? Just because, as I said, myself personally, yes, I actually prefer the round 2 just because of those two differences.
Well, for someone who was there breaking both, I do have an appreciation for both, but my appreciation is a little bit different. First of all, 2009 is the year for round 2. So every card in there is a rookie card as well. It may not be a first card, because lots of people in the early UFC collecting community believed there's only such thing as one rookie. So 2009 is the rookie card for all 99 of the cards. And if any of those guys repeat, for example, Cain Velasquez, he repeats in 2009, it's not his rookie card. Every other collecting sport would look at that and say, nope, that's a rookie card because both were issued in 2009. And so I think that there's a historical importance to 2009. It wasn't a limited edition product. UFC sold out all the 500 cases from round 1. So they built a very large product. I think round 2 is historically significant. Absolutely. And it's absolutely a set people should have. It's a lot less expensive, number one. And it's primarily driven by one guy. It's John Jones, who has to be considered a GOAT in his primary weight class, maybe sometime soon, a heavyweight GOAT too, you never know. But it was his first base card. It was his first autograph, and it was his first rookie patch auto. And so it's an incredibly significant set. It's got a lot of first patch autos as well of other important fighters. It's got, I think it introduced the poster card as well. And it had some other nice inserts compared to round one. The card stock was much better. You may end up finding some base cards that can PSA 10. You may find an auto or two that could be PSA 10. It's got a lot of first autos that are important, Bader and obviously Jones. And so I would say if I would compare the two, I still have an affinity for round one because it was the first. I opened a lot of it. I made a lot of sets, but round two is an outstanding product and historically significant for Topps, and should be historically significant for collectors as well, because the autos were outstanding. It's the same year, so a lot of people will consider it rookie cards for all of the fighters, no matter who they are, even if they had a round one card. It's got a great, I think it's called Ultimate Gear Auto, for all those. And the Ultimate Gear Autos are all to 25. And so if you've got one, it's rare, straight out the box. And I think they had Ultimate Gear Base, which I think had some numbers they're not down to 25, maybe 99. I can't recall at the moment, but outstanding product, and probably considered to be undervalued as a set and individual cards. I think some of the important rookie cards should continue to appreciate in value, particularly the ones that are in great condition. And a lot of those cards had a better quality in the product that Topps had used before. So you can find a lot of great graded cards in that series. And also it came with, I think, a view of it's more about more current fighters. Whereas the first 10 cards of round one were like Gracie, Severin, Evan Tanner, Matt Hughes, guys that have been around for a while, and some who had Mark Coleman, guys that maybe even retired by 2009. Whereas round two was more of a fresh set, a fresh look. It was no longer recreating the history in cards. It was of more current fighters. And a very interesting point you made, I hadn't thought about, that the round one had more focus on fighters, the two fighters on each card, whereas round two was a fighter card, and that's how it was. It didn't have the second fighter. So excellent product. I have a ton of it. I finally built a red ink set a couple of years ago, and I have the Jones red ink, which is his, the premier card to own of his, and outstanding product.
Yeah, and as I said, like just that was just my personal view, and that is something that I will probably search in my own eBay searches now is too. I think I will look at to pick out some of the more round two products. As I said, there will definitely be some individual cards of the round one, as you said, just such a historic product in terms of UFC cards. So I definitely there is room for my PC to have some of these round one cards. But yeah, the round two, as we've spoken about off air as well, I do really like the Fight Night posters from round two, especially UFC 1 through to 5. Right. Some of those cards are absolutely beautiful in my opinion. And then the photo finishes as well. They're an amazing insert that I think are very underappreciated. And that is obviously something that I think as the UFC...
These guys.
That's them, yep. With either
I think I've got this set for you.
What was that, sorry?
I've got this set for you.
You found it?
Yep. I've got a blur in my background, but
yeah,
that's
I can see it. Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
From James Irvin to Joe Lozon.
There was 25 in that set, did you say?
Yep, that's right.
Yep. And there's obviously the unnumbered base, and then there was the Onyx to 88. Is there rubies to 8 as well?
I believe there's rubies and one of ones.
Oh, there is one of ones. Okay, I wasn't sure.
I believe so. Don't quote me on it, but I believe so. But definitely rubies.
Yeah. No, they're beautiful cards, and I mean you got to give it to
hard
Topps.
to find.
Yes, you got to give it to
Those are
Topps. Like
not easy to find.
the photography they used, I'm not sure if you probably, if you flick through your stack here, you'll see it. There's a photo of Quinton Rampage Jackson, and he is giving the hammer fist to hell of Chuck Liddell in that KO finish, and that is just an amazing, amazing photography choice they made for that card. And yeah, that was the first one I ever saw from that set. That one right there. That was the first I saw from that set, and I became absolutely obsessed with it since then. So here I am now speaking about sets and not, particularly being a set collector, but I think I've just taught myself into picking up my first ever set. So
You got it. I've got it on hold for you.
So while we are talking about sets, I wouldn't be remiss if I wasn't to ask you, as a UFC card father, a little bit more about the history of these sets, particularly about what the demand was like. Maybe if you are aware of any sort of print runs, if we could, maybe share a little bit about that. If you don't, that's quite all right. But I would like to know about someone who was there at the time. Obviously, I can't look back. That's one thing I would love to learn about, but I can't, without a time machine, can't get back there. But I would love for you to sort of maybe tell the community a little bit about what the demand was like with, for example, I was telling you off air, 2012, 2013, Topps Finest, my two favorite years of Finest. Massive fan of Bloodlines as well from 2013. I would say overall 2013 is my favorite year of UFC cards from a design perspective. The gold refractors, for example, in Topps Finest are just absolutely beautiful cards. They have the super refractors as well. But if you could sort of give a little bit of your past knowledge on what was the demand like. Obviously, with Panini products now, we know Prism and Select basically command most of the demand for the UFC card market. But can you sort of tell us a little bit about what was the premier product from Topps when we're talking about Finest, Bloodlines? Maybe if you want to go further to Museum and Knockout in the years after, but we'll start with around 2012, 2013.
Okay, that's a wide range of years, and I'm going to make it a little wider so you get a little context as well.
Yep.
In your background, you've got a box of 2010 Series 4, the one with Liddell in his overhand right on it. That was the first massive kind of junk era printing that Topps did, and you ended up with a ton of base cards that most people just trashed. Not lots of new fighters in there, but a lot of great autos and inserts and insert autos. It was really a good product, but you had to buy a ton of it to get good stuff, or you just bought the singles on eBay and things like that. It was not a well-loved product back then, but I think it's getting a better reputation now because of the insert products, which had the Thoughts from the Boss, dual autos with Dana and different fighters. And it had something really important to understand in the history of UFC cards with Topps. It had a product called Tale of the Tape. And if you haven't seen one or gotten one in your hand, it truly is, through the history of Topps cards, one of the very few products that will ever have a fight used relic. You see tons of t-shirts, tons of patches, and those are all fighter worn, but not worn in a fight. And even the glove products tend not to be fight used gloves. It's fighter worn. So in theory, a fighter just puts it on his hand and takes it off and it's done. And it's not really a fight used. But the hand wraps that went into that product are truly fight used. And so those Tale of the Tape cards, I think there were 12 or 16 in the set, and a lot of big names in it. And they were all numbered at 25 and tough as hell to find today. Tough as impossible to build a set because people gobbled them up in PCs and never let them go. But moving on to some other years, I think the Finest series that came out 2011, 12, and 13 dramatically changed the trajectory of Topps, brought in people from other sports, not a lot, but some, because they were finally seeing, let's just call it shiny product. Whereas everything else didn't have that look. And I think Topps finally decided to bring in some of the design style from baseball and other sports into that product. In the end, also, I think 2011, I'd have to think about it, but I think Finest was definitely an on-card auto. I can't recall if it was the first year of on-card autos. It was not the premier product line of Topps because that was Knockout. They came out in 2010. That was the first premium product, and they identified in some of the cards that they were considered premium cards, premium autos, things like that. In 2010, KO had a massive following, and it was a high quality product. But Finest kind of changed the game a bit because it brought that shiny look. It brought all the on-card autos. First year, it had the Poirier rookie card. And then the rest of the Finest products also were high-end. And I don't think people know so much about how large the production run was. And I don't think they will know. I don't know. But it didn't appear to be an overproduced product like Series 4. That everyone in the world clearly knew because you bought a box back then for $40. You got a couple relics, you got a couple autos, and you seem to have gotten 3,000 cards that you didn't want. Now, everyone that threw away their Kimbo rookie card lost out on something. And there was a Rory McDonald rookie card, but the base cards haven't done really, really well. So it's nothing special about that. It's the autos and the inserts. But whereas Finest, Finest had great autos. Finest had a great look. It felt good in your hand. It graded well. But the interesting part is, even back in those days, the vast majority of the UFC collectors didn't grade their cards. It just wasn't something that was important. What was important is having your fighter, because you got your fighter and you weren't necessarily looking to sell it. You PC'd it. So, yeah, you could find plenty of your fighters available on eBay, but there was not a case where people only wanted a card because it was a PSA 10. That didn't happen, I think, until Bloodlines. 2013 and even 2012 Bloodline, but I think 2013 was the game changer with the Conor McGregor rookie card. And so that one, because he became popular outside of the MMA world, people wanted a PSA 10 or people wanted a BGS 9.5 of his rookie card. Plus the design of those cards were just outstanding. And it wasn't a feeling like the Bloodlines were overproduced either. The base cards weren't numbered, that's right. So it's not like 2014 KO when Khabib had his first rookie auto, and even his base auto was numbered to 149. So people knew that they had a rare product of a rookie card of an up-and-coming fighter, and it was going to be known that there were only 149. I think everyone in the world believes Conor probably signed 700 base first autos, which is fine because no one really cares. They just want the first auto. But the Bloodline products, I would say 2012 and 2013 were amazing. 2014 didn't get the interest, I think, so much because there wasn't a great first auto. And 2014 KO was so striking. It was a premium product. It had the first on-card or the first auto of Khabib. It had the first auto of Nunes. It had on-card autos of Conor. It had the RPA of Conor. And I know I'm missing some other guys, but they also had the red ink of 15 on a white background. And those look so beautiful to many collectors. Let's say, at least I'm a fan, that people really enjoy them. Same thing happened with Bloodlines. Bloodlines had a red ink of 15 and not only had the auto, but had a nickname with it. So my Conor /15 that I own says Conor McGregor and Notorious under it. And that is just so amazing. And for a lot of people, they like that card better even than the Ruby, which is twice as rare, but only has a regular signature. It's not red ink, and it has a different background. And the one of that series is also kind of, let's say, maligned a little bit because it looks almost like a base version. The only difference is on the bottom, it's got a slight gray cloud or something. So there's not a tremendous amount of distinction like there is with 2013 Finest, which you mentioned. 2013 Finest, probably the most beautiful set that they ever made, most beautiful series by 2013. And I have with me close by, I've got to find my camera. I don't know how well it's coming up because of the blurring.
I saw it to begin with, it focused enough to begin with. It's the Max Bless Holloway Gold Refractor.
Right. And
number
it is
25.
22 out of 25.
Yep.
And I don't know if you paid attention this past weekend.
I did. I saw
Obviously,
the 101 Super Refractor. Yep.
Sold for $15,000. I mean,
Yep.
that is so good for the community to see a big 1-of-1 rookie card. It's not the highest that's ever been, because I think the Khabib 1-of-1 2014 sold for $70,000. Well deserved. I mean, maybe the greatest ever. Some will maybe argue that Holloway is one of the greatest ever. I don't think he reaches Khabib status, but that's not a card discussion. That's a MMA discussion.
I'm going to be a little bit biased because I actually PC Holloway. So, but yeah, I would love, while we're just talking about that recent sale, I would love to get your, I mean, maybe I'm already going to know what you're going to answer, but how do you feel when you see sales of cards like that go for 15,000 for a 1-of-1 on-card auto Max Holloway's rookie card? Only one of them, only one with the auto like that. Go for 15,000, and then we see these other sales. You know, mid 2022, we saw Paddy Pimlet's sell for 4,000 or 5,000. We see Hamzat sell for in 20,000. I think he had that 30,000 for his 2021 Gold Prism PSA 10. How does that sort of make you feel as a long-term UFC card collector? How do you feel when you see these comparisons? When
here's the way I look at it. The person who bought the 1-of-1 Holloway is not gambling. They're buying history, and they're buying proven history, just like whoever would buy the rookie red inks from round 1 of GSP and Silva and BJ Penn and Randy. They're buying history, and they're buying knowledge of what's happened and what was proven. The guys spending $30,000 on Khamzat and Hasbullah and Paddy Pimlet, those guys are gambling. And you've got to, we were once gamblers. I've been a gambler in the business. I gambled on buying the rookie 1-of-1 Cody Garbrandt on-card auto when he had this massive win over Dom Cruz, and I was there at the fight, and I won the auto and was so happy for a while. And when he lost and went on this losing streak, it was a gamble. I took a gamble. I thought I made an educated decision, but I didn't.
I mean,
I've had plenty of losses. I have plenty of good gambles in the collecting business, but I don't believe in a lot of the big gambles that have been made recently in Panini products. And even some of the gambles that people have taken in buying the first Chrome 1-of-1 Connor base. Someone bought it, I think, for $40,000 or $50,000 on Golden, and they ended up reselling it a year later for $15,000. So those kind of things, I don't understand the decision making, but there's, I think, a lot of collectors in the Panini world that gamble far more than did in the Topps world. And I certainly wouldn't put my money in that level of gambling for Paddy or for Hasbullah or even for Khamzat, because, you know, I want to see, I'm willing to take a small amount of risk in my collecting. But 30,000, to me, that card could maybe worth 75,000 down the road, could be worth 750 down the road. We need to see 6, 8, 10 more fights to know if that was a smart decision. And certainly people are out there in the Panini world taking far greater gambles in UFC and in other sports. But that's a different level of collecting, and I'll call it flipping. A lot of people call it flipping because they buy to turn around and resell. And if that's in your business, that's great. I've known plenty of people over the years that have done that. I've known that most of them don't wind up having the best story. They end up investing and coming back, and it didn't work out, and they have to dump some investments they've made. But it's a shock to me to see those guys selling with base cards in particular. Because for me, maybe I can understand the one of one first auto, and I've got plenty of those. Of not like Max Holloway, but I'm really happy with that sale, to see that happening, not only for a Topps product, but for the type of recognition of what he's accomplished. And I think that card could have sold for $40,000 and would still have been a reasonable price.
Yeah,
the problem is in the UFC card collecting community, I don't think there's too many people that can go out there and afford even $15,000 on a card. I think there's a general consensus who won the auto, and that guy could have spent $100,000 on that card and they wouldn't have bothered him.
Yeah, I believe we're on the same page with that, and I guess we would both have the same name come out of our mouths if we were to make guesses as to who was the buyer. But just in order to comment on what you were just saying about people gambling about what card prices could be worth in the future if they're paying $30,000 for a Hamzat rookie gold now. I mean, we're just seeing, like, Max Holloway is still a super relevant fighter. He's probably at least in the top 10 most popular fighters in the UFC just now. That was his one of one super refractor on card autograph, and it sold for a third of the price. So, I mean, if people be gambling about what is that, Hamzat card going to be worth in 10 years in the future, I mean, you're getting a little bit of estimation now. If you look back at past champions, Max Holloway at one point was considered the best featherweight of all time. So, I mean, as I said, yes, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens in regards to UFC card market, how much it grows in the future, which I'm sure we both can agree it will substantially. It's just a matter of the rate and how much time. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you one thing, and you can deny it to answer this if you like, but you did make a comment when you did have that interview with Matt from the Golden Octagon. And obviously, guys, if you're watching this now and for some reason you don't know Matt at the Golden Octagon, you haven't seen this interview, please jump over to his channel, subscribe to his channel, rewatch this interview with Eric, because we're taking this in two different directions. But I did want to highlight something you did mention. He did ask you about when 2021 Panini products came out. You mentioned about you weren't interested because of what you knew about the industry. You weren't really interested in buying cases of Panini products at that time for the pricing. Can you, as I said, I'm not here to crap on Panini or whatever, but I just found that comment from you very interesting. And yeah, you obviously feel free to answer if you like.
Sure. Well, for me as a set builder, which is what I enjoy, over the years, for most of the years, I would buy cases of product, open them, build sets, and keep everything else. I was just never one to go and sell everything that I didn't want at the moment, because once it's in my hands, giving it up is like giving up something very unique. And it's been over collecting for 14 years, probably no more than 5-10 times maximum have I ever sold a card that was completely unique to me. I'd usually have a separate one. If I sold a one-of-one card of Cormier, it's because I've got 20 other one-of-ones of Daniel Cormier. If I've sold a one-of-one of St. Pierre, it's because I've got 30 one-of-ones of St. Pierre. So while giving up wasn't maybe the easiest, I knew that I had other cards. So for me, if I had in my hands that one-of-one Max Holloway first auto, would have been really difficult for me to sell. I've got the one-of-one base from 2013 of Max Holloway, and a ruby. So I've got a rainbow of the base, and if I would have won that one-of-one auto, I would have a rainbow of the first auto because I've got a ruby and some 25s. So I was very interested in it. I'm going a little bit off topic, but for me, when I first saw the pricing come out with Panini, I knew that it wouldn't fit my strategy of owning Panini cards, of building sets and enjoying it, because I wasn't ready to go out and spend $15,000 in a case, and then they jumped to $30,000 pretty quickly. And I was still, I'll sound a little bit like a kid. I was still angry at Topps for letting it go. Why did they take away my product that I love so much? And it got delivered to Panini. So for me, I had a little bit of anger. I had a little bit of disbelief that this was happening and the pricing. And so I kind of shut myself down as to buying Panini product. I would buy a few cards here and there. Maybe I own 10 or 12 Panini cards. It's not because I hate Panini, but because it doesn't fit the way I previously collected. And for me, at this point, watching the Panini products come out, there's plenty of people that love it, and there's a lot of haters out there. And a lot of the haters are the old Topps people. And some of the other haters are people that have bought in, maybe have lost money because they bought boxes or a case and haven't gotten a return on it. They're not flipping well. Obviously, the guy that buys the Kamzat or hits it in a break and spent $200 on it and turns it into $30,000 is a happy collector. But for me, I haven't bought into the Panini style also, because it would hurt me, let's say financially, if I'm going to search for a rainbow and a rainbow turns out to be 38 cards, and only to find out that that's one version of a rainbow, but there's 6 other versions of a rainbow in the same series. And I don't know if you've noticed that there's been some discussion of, I don't know if it's out or not, there's been a basketball series with a Monopoly, and there's been a discussion of a Taco Bell card in baseball. And so some of these just sound a little bit silly to me, so I haven't bought into the concept of animal prints and the color blasts. Lots of pretty cards, definitely lots of good looks in different years, and I enjoy the Panini cards that I do have, but it didn't fit me personally, because I was buying boxes and cases with Topps. And so for me, if I believe the rumors are reasonable that Panini may lose the license because they're going through a lot of difficulties, they've got a lawsuit with Topps. Looks like they just lost football. If they eventually have to close shop or sell the UFC license to Topps, and Topps gets it, I'm going to be the first guy in line at Topps to buy 10 cases of the first UFC Topps products that come out in 2024 or 2025 or whatever the date is, because I'll have this feeling or belief that that's for the hobby. That's a card for the hobby, as opposed it's a card for Panini to get rich or for individual buyers and flippers to get rich. I'm truly not a Panini hater. I'm more of a non-collector, because it doesn't fit my prior experience in collecting over a lot of years. It's not even just UFC and Topps. It's the way I collected when I collected baseball and Topps in the early years. So not a hater, but not a supporter, and would really love to see Topps get it back so I can start buying UFC cards again.
Well, I'm not sure if you've seen, I've posted twice now, little clips in my channel. Are you familiar with who Michael Rubin is, the founder of Fanatics?
Yes.
So yeah, Michael Rubin, founder of Fanatics. Obviously, Fanatics hold the license; they own Topps. He mentioned in an interview of at least 3 months ago now, a clip that I've played on 2 separate videos now, basically saying that they have acquired all the licenses to football, baseball, basketball, UFC, WWE. So, I mean, I wouldn't take him to be a liar in order to say that he has already acquired the license. Also, you probably heard it too, it was just a multi-year deal that Panini announced with UFC back in 2021. So multi-year could be anywhere, I guess. You would say it's at least 2, at least probably 3. So you would have either 3, maybe 5 years of Panini. As you said, there's obviously a lot of drama going on between Fanatics, Panini. Are they going to buy Panini? There's lawsuits, all that sort of thing. So yeah, it really leaves it up in the air as to basically not if Topps make UFC cards, it's just a when. So whether it's,
I agree,
whether it's 2024, I mean, obviously that could be a little bit rushed. It generally takes, I think, a good 6 months, a year to get these products on the prints and obviously produce. So whether it's next year or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, I would definitely put out there. I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But yeah, definitely with you. I mean, we could probably talk about this a little bit, but what products would you love to see first released from Topps again for UFC cards? Say if they were to make cards again in 2024.
I think they've got to do Finest or Chrome again, first product, and they've got to do Knockout, the second product, and they've got to make it better than their last Knockout product in 2020. I think they knew they had lost it. They need to revamp it. They need to bring back triple threat autos. They need to look for a way to get fight used memorabilia into their cards. I would love to see them go back in prior knockouts. They had a card called a Fistograph. I don't know if you ever saw a Fistograph. They need to bring that back as well. But I think they've got to do Chrome, Finest, KO in the first year.
Yeah,
I don't know if they'd ever go back to Bloodlines. They may go back and do a Bloodlines. And the other thing they need to do is get Conor back signing autographs. Right now, I've heard that he has a deal with Leaf only, so you'll never see him sign a Panini card. I don't think you're going to see John Jones sign a Panini card, even if there's redemptions out there. And I've seen recently in social media that Bo Nickel says he's not going to sign a Panini card. That probably just means they've got to triple or quadruple what they're paying him. But maybe he's taking a line in the sand that he never agreed to it, so redemption shouldn't exist that say they're getting an auto. So I think Topps could come out in, let's call it 2024, 2025, with a Chrome product that keeps every Panini collector interested and brings back all the Topps people that have not been buying Panini. And if there anyone that works for Topps that's watching this right now, just give me a call. I'll help you out in design.
Yeah, and after they're finished calling you, they can drop me a line as well. No,
sounds good.
But no, I definitely agree. Yeah, to see Finest again, I mean, would blow my mind. To see Topps Chrome again, which I mean, it's hard to imagine Topps making UFC products again and not seeing those two staple products. With Fanatics obviously behind them, there is definitely a lot of room there for them to start incorporating, as you said, these event used maybe walkout shirts or maybe relics from press conferences and weigh-ins and stuff like that. I do think there would be a massive market because, as you mentioned previously, earlier on in the interview, you said like Topps have made relic cards, but if you read the back of it, it says in small print, the relic contained on this does not come from any particular event or fight.
That's for certain.
And it just says fighter worn. So that doesn't even technically mean, I mean, if you want to get technical, but it doesn't even mean that particular fighter even wore that shirt. Maybe,
right.
To be honest, it was just a fighter. It doesn't say that it was worn by this fighter on this card.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's why, I mean, it took me a while to get in depth with that, but that's why I tend to stay away from any relic. I love the canvas relics because if you flip around to the back, you know exactly what event that came from.
That's right.
Which is very important for me, at least in my collecting. I think that's a very cool addition. And I think moving forward, they would be silly to not do that with every sort of relic, as you mentioned, whether it's a glove, a shirt, shorts, whatever.
Right.
Fistographs, like they should actually state.
The only problem with that is the UFC has its own memorabilia selling process. Now, if Fanatics can convince UFC to take that over for them and pay them some sort of a royalty for, let's say, 80% of the products that come in and 20% of the products they're allowed to include in a card, I think that would be a very smart move with Fanatics. And I think UFC is making plenty of money where they truly don't need to really have memorabilia as a separate line of business. I mean, that can't be a half of 1% of their revenues. It's really just a drain on their resources, and they don't understand that well. And maybe, things will improve. I don't think their NFT business is, gone crazy like they expected it to, really for any NFTs. But I think if Fanatics can sit down with UFC and say, you focus on your business and we'll help you with these other parts of the business, more intelligent minds will prevail, and the collector will be the better, the better for it. Because I think when Topps gets it back, they will blow the mind of the collector. And if they're starting to work today on preparing for it, even better, because then they will know exactly what to do and get a Topps UFC product out quickly to keep, and it has to keep the Panini folks happy and the old Topps people, and maybe bring in some new ones, just like Panini did when their product got launched. And I think with Fanatics and the money that they have behind them, we'll be able to absolutely do that quickly and make a lot of collectors happy, including this one.
Yeah, no, you definitely hit the nail on the head. And I think Fanatics, with their deep pockets, hopefully there can be some sort of coming together of the UFC and Fanatics in order to make these awesome Topps cards again. Eric, I'm so grateful for your time. Before we wrap this interview up, I would love to maybe do it. Part of me and my channel, I do love to obviously create informative content, but I also like to speculate. It's fun for me. I hope to think it's fun for the viewers as well. So I'd like to put one question to you as someone who has been in this hobby since day one. Let's fast forward the UFC card hobby, 15, 20 years. Let's give a list of the top 5 fighters who you think are holding the most value in 15, 20 years.
Okay. I would say St. Pierre will be there.
Yeah.
I would say there's a decent chance Anderson Silva will be there.
Yeah.
I think Holloway will be there. I think it may be an unpopular point of view, but I think Sean O'Malley will be there.
Okay, 4, yeah.
And then there'll probably be,
if you want to blow it out to 10, I'm quite all right with that.
Okay.
I just was trying to be mindful of your time. But yeah, you seem to be blowing through them. So
I think right now, Adesanya is very underrated in the value of his cards.
Yeah.
Very underrated. And I don't understand why. But it could be that the first auto that came out was pretty basic and isn't very flashy for Israel. Doesn't match his personality.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that first auto probably that would be better would be his Inception auto, which was the same series.
Yes. Yep.
But has a lot of a beautiful card.
Yeah.
So I think Izzy will be there. I think Bo Nickel will probably be there.
Okay. Well,
but we have to see him. We have to see that he gets challenged. I would love to see Khamzat be there, but I'm running out of patience because it seems to be too much time between his fights. And so I think he's losing maybe the interest of the public because he hasn't been in there fighting. I would hope Brock would be in there. He had a short period of time, but he put together a good run for a short period of time and continues to be a major draw with the WWE. Not a guarantee, but I would really like to see Ronda Rousey in there as well. There's some rumors recently that she may be back at UFC 300.
I have not heard that.
And she's leaving the WWE. And so if she leaves the WWE and she wants to do something physical, and now that Nunes has retired, I think some of her biggest risk fighters she could manage in an MMA fight again. So I would leave it at that because I'm not confident of suggesting more of the more recent fighters until we see a little bit more time. There's definitely lots of hype with other fighters. I own Aljamain Sterling's rookie 1/1 auto, so I would love to see him in that one, but he just doesn't have the acceptance of the collecting community in general that's generating enough interest to see his cards grow a lot. I would also like to see Kamaru Usman in there because he really has accomplished a tremendous amount in the sport, but people are putting too much interest in his most recent loss. And so if he comes back and he gets the belt and he keeps it until he retires, I think the value of his stuff should skyrocket because he may prove to be better than GSP was. But GSP has this special thing about him He's gone on to success outside the sport in Hollywood. Seems like he's going to come back and do some grappling. And he was around from the early days and was just such a great representative of the sport and a winner. I mean, so I think he has to be in that. Absolutely.
Yeah, couldn't argue with that list. Obviously, you got about 10 or 11 fighters there, and I would have named a very, very similar list. Whether Conor or not makes that top 10, I mean, it's yet to be seen. His career is so up and down, not only in the cage, but also outside the cage. And we could see maybe some of these outside cage dramas and things really affect his popularity over time. That'll only play out.
He should be in the list. He has to be in that list. I can't believe I forgot him because I'm also heavily invested in some of his cards.
And the other one who I will sort of shout out, someone who I personally don't collect or anything, but I think John Jones would be another one you would have to put in that list as well. But yeah,
I agree completely.
Yeah, but no,
John should be in that list.
A very, very solid.
Unfortunately, some of his things that have happened outside the sport, I think, affected people's view. But I think if he defends his title again, has one or two more wins, he'll be the GOAT. And I think his cards should dramatically increase in value over time, as long as we don't have to see anything happen to him outside the sport that we have to look at it and just cringe. Same thing with Conor, but Conor seems to be like Teflon Conor. I mean, even if he gets into bad trouble, throwing a dolly at the bus of Khabib and his cards still increase in value, and all the things that happen outside of the sport, and he hasn't fought for years, and people still love him. I think he's been great for the sport. Maybe will be the most important influence in the sport in his lifetime, and maybe further on. But he won't be the Mickey Mantle of the sport.
Yeah,
he won't be the guy that has the best record and is the one who represents the sport forever. But I think he's definitely the guy that's brought in people that didn't know MMA existed.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
I totally agree. Thank you so much, Eric. I mean, this, as I said, this has been absolutely amazing, not only for me as a content creator, but also just a fan of UFC cards. I urge anyone, I will have a link to your Instagram linked in the description for people who want to check out your cards. Just before we sign off here, what is the best way if people want to get in contact with you in order to, what's the best way people get in contact with you?
The best way probably is for someone to send me a message on Instagram. I've got email and such, and we can stay in contact, but Instagram message is probably the best way. I had my 1,000th post over the weekend, the day Max fought. Thank you very much. So it's been a fun ride, because before that, I was just showing my cards in various groups and Facebook, and I rarely sell anything on eBay because I rarely sell. So people didn't know a lot about me. Now I've got a little bit more than 1,000 followers over a couple years. 10,000 would be great. So, I'm moving towards something like that, but probably, go to the UFC Card Father on IG. I am working on a website. When it's ready and has valuable content, I'll probably launch it through IG. Right now it's not in the best shape because I have a regular workday career besides UFC cards. So to make something I consider nice, it takes some time. But Damian, really, thank you for the time. I appreciate the opportunity. Love talking about UFC cards. And it's a community that keeps growing, and I really enjoy seeing it keep growing and how it's changed over the years. And I'm happy to be part of the community.
Yeah, well, we love having you. And thank you so much again, Eric. We will definitely have you back in the future, and I will promote that website for you when it comes out. Thank you again, Eric, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. You do the same. Take care.